The Kite Runner, Chapter 2. When we were children, Hassan and I used to climb the poplar trees in the driveway of my father's home and annoy our neighbors by reflecting sunlight into their homes with a shard of mirror. We would sit across from each other on a pair of high branches, our naked feet dangling, our trouser pockets filled with dried mulberries and walnuts. We took turns with the mirrors as we ate mulberries, pelted each other with them, giggling, laughing. I can still see Hassan up on that tree, sunlight flickering through the leaves on his almost perfectly round face, a face like a Chinese doll chiseled from hardwood, his flat, broad nose and slanting, narrow eyes like bamboo leaves, eyes that looked, depending on the light, gold, green, even sapphire. I can still see his tiny, low-set ears and that pointed stub of a chin, a meaty appendage that looked like it was added as a mere afterthought. And the cleft lip, just left of midline, where the Chinese doll-maker's instrument may have slipped, or perhaps he had simply grown tired and careless. Sometimes, up in those trees, I talked Hassan into firing walnuts with a slingshot at the neighbor's one-eyed German shepherd. Hassan never wanted to, but if I asked, really asked, he wouldn't deny me. Hassan never denied me anything. And he was deadly with his slingshot. Hassan's father, Ali, used to catch us and get mad, or as mad as someone gentle as Ali could ever get. He would wag his finger and wave us down from the tree. He would take the mirror and tell us what his mother had told him, that the devil shone mirrors too, shone them to distract Muslims during prayer. And he laughed while he does it, he always added, scowling at his son. Yes, father, Hassan would mumble, looking down at his feet. But he never told on me. Never told that the mirror, like shooting walnuts at the neighbor's dog, was always my idea. The poplar trees lined the red brick driveway, which led to a pair of wrought iron gates. They, in turn, opened into an extension of the driveway into my father's estate. The house sat on the left side of the brick path, the backyard at the end of it. Everyone agreed that my father, Baba, had built the most beautiful house in the Wazir Akbar Khan district, a new, affluent neighborhood in the northern part of Kabul. Some thought it was the prettiest house in all of Kabul. A broad entry flanked by rose bushes led to the sprawling house of marble floors and wide windows. Intricate mosaic tiles, handpicked by Baba and Isfan, covered the floors of the 4 bathrooms. Gold-stitched tapestries, which Baba had bought in Calcutta, lined the walls. A crystal chandelier hung from the vaulted ceiling. Upstairs was my bedroom, Baba's room, and a study, also known as the smoking room, which perpetually smelled of tobacco and cinnamon. Baba and his friends reclined on black leather chairs there after Ali had served dinner. They stuffed their pipes, except Baba always called it fattening the pipe, and discussed their favorite 3 topics: politics, business, soccer. Sometimes I asked Baba if I could sit with them, but Baba would stand in the doorway. Go on now, he'd say. This is grown-ups' time. Why don't you go read one of those books of yours? He'd close the door, leave me to wonder why it was always grown-ups' time with him. I'd sit by the door, knees drawn to my chest. Sometimes I sat there for an hour, sometimes 2, listening to their laughter, their chatter. The living room downstairs had a curved wall with custom-built cabinets. Inside sat framed family pictures, an old grainy photo of my father and King Nadir San took in 1931, 2 years before the king's assassination. They are standing over a dead deer, dressed in knee-high boots, rifles slung over their shoulders. There was a picture of my parents' wedding night, Baba dashing in his black suit, and my mother, a smiling young princess in white. Here was Baba and his best friend and business partner, Rahim Khan, standing outside our house, neither one smiling. I'm a baby in that photograph, and Baba is holding me, looking tired and grim. I'm in his arms, but it's Rahim Khan's pinky my fingers are curled around. The curved wall led into the dining room, at the center of which was a mahogany table that could easily sit 30 guests, and, given my father's taste for extravagant parties, it did just that almost every week. On the other end of the dining room was a tall marble fireplace, always lit by the orange glow of a fire in the wintertime. A large sliding glass door opened into a semicircular terrace that overlooked 2 acres of backyard and rows of cherry trees. Baba and Allie had planted a small vegetable garden along the eastern wall. Tomatoes, mint, peppers, and a row of corn that never really took. Hassan and I used to call it the wall of ailing corn. On the south end of the garden, in the shadows of a loquat tree, was the servants' home, a modest little mud hut where Hassan lived with his father. It was there, in that little shack, that Hassan was born in the winter of 1964, just 1 year after my mother died giving birth to me. In the 18 years that I lived in the house, I stepped into Hassan and Allie's quarters only a handful of times. When the sun dropped low behind the hills and we were done playing for the day, Hassan and I parted ways. I went past the rose bushes to Baba's mansion, Hassan to the mud shack where he had been born, where he lived his entire life. I remember it was spare, clean, dimly lit by a pair of kerosene lamps. There were 2 mattresses on opposite sides of the room, a worn Harati rug with frayed edges in between, a 3-leg stool, and a wooden table in the corner where Hassan did his drawings. The wall stood bare, save for a single tapestry with stone beads forming the walls. Allahu Akbar. Baba had bought it for Ali on one of his trips to Mashhad. It was in that small shack that Hassan's mother, Sanubar, gave birth to him one cold day in 1964. While my mother hemorrhaged to death during childbirth, Hassan lost his less than a week after he was born. Lost her to a fate most Afghans considered far worse than death. She ran off with a clan of traveling singers and dancers. Hassan never talked about his mother, as if she never existed. I always wondered if he dreamed about her, about what she looked like, where she was. I wondered if he longed to meet her. Did he ache for her in the way I ached for the mother I had never met? One day, we were walking from my father's house to Cinema Zanabab for a new Iranian movie, taking the shortcut through the military barracks near Istiklal Middle School. Baba had forbidden us to take the shortcut, but he was in Pakistan with Rahim Khan at the time. We hopped the fence that surrounded the barracks, slipped over a little creek, and broke into the open dirt field where old abandoned tanks collected dust. A group of soldiers huddled in the shade of one of those tanks, smoking cigarettes and playing cards. One of them saw us, elbowed the guy next to him, and called Hassan. "Hey you," he said. "I know you." We had never seen him before. He was a squatty man with a shaved head and black stubble on his face. The way he grinned at us, leered, scared me. "Just keep walking," I muttered to Hassan. "You, the Haraza, look at me when I'm talking to you," the soldier barked. He handed a cigarette to the guy next to him, made a circle with the thumb of his index finger in one hand, poked his middle finger of his other hand through the circle, poked it in and out, in and out. "I knew your mother, did you know that? I knew her real good. Took her from behind by that creek over there." The other soldiers laughed. One of them made a squealing sound. I told Hassan to keep walking. "What a tight little sugary she had," the soldier was saying, shaking his head with the others, grinning. Later in the dark, after the movie had started, I heard Hassan next to me, croaking. Tears were sliding down his cheeks. I reached across my seat, slung my arm around him, and pulled him close. He rested his head on my shoulder. "He took you for someone else," I whispered. "He took you for someone else." I'm told no one was really surprised when Sanubar eloped. People had raised their eyebrows when Ali, a man who had memorized the Quran, married Sanubar, a woman 19 years younger, beautiful but notoriously unscrupulous woman who lived up to her dishonorable reputation. Like Ali, she was a Shia Muslim and an ethnic Haraza. She was also his first cousin and therefore a natural choice for a spouse. But beyond those similarities, Ali and Sanubar had little in common, least of all their respective appearance. While Sanubar's brilliant green eyes and impish face, rumor has it, tempted countless men into sin, Ali's congenital paralysis of his lower face muscles, a condition that rendered him unable to smile and left him perpetually grim-faced. It was an odd thing to see the stone-faced Ali happy, or sad, because only his slanted brown eyes glinted with a smile or welled with sorrow. People say eyes are the window to the soul. Never was that more true than with Ali, who could only reveal himself through his eyes. I have heard that Sanabar's suggestive stride and osculating hips have sent men into reveries of infidelity, but polio had left Ali with a twisted, atrophied right leg that was sallow skin over bone with little in between except a paper-thin layer of muscle. I remembered one day when I was 8, Ali was taking me to the bazaar to buy some naan. I was walking behind him, humming, trying to imitate his walk. I watched him swing his scraggy leg into a sweeping arc, watched his whole body tilt impossibly to the right every time he planted his foot. It seemed like a miracle he didn't tip over with each step. When I tried it, I almost fell into the gutter. That got me giggling. Ali turned around, caught me aping him. He didn't say anything. Not then. Not ever. He just kept walking. Ali's face and his walk frightened some of the younger children in the neighborhood. But the real trouble was with older kids. They chased him on the street and mocked him when he hobbled by. Some had taken to calling him Babalu, or Boogeyman. "Hey, Babalu, what did you eat today?" they barked to a chorus of laughter. "What did you eat, you flat-nosed Babalu?" They called him Flat-Nose because of Ali and Hassan's characteristic Haraza mongoloid features. For years, that was all I knew about the Harazas. They were Mongol descendants, and that they barely looked like the Chinese people. School textbooks barely mentioned them and referred to their ancestry only in passing. Then, one day, I was in Baba's study looking through his stuff when I found one of my mother's old history books. It was written by an Iranian named Khorrami. I blew dust off of it, sneaked it into my bed with me that night, and was stunned to find an entire chapter on Haraza history. An entire chapter dedicated to Hassan's people. In it, I read that my people, the Pashtuns, had persecuted and oppressed the Harazas. It said the Harazas had tried to rise against the Pashtuns in the 19th century, but the Pashtuns had quelled them with unspeakable violence. The book said that my people had killed Harazas, driven them from their lands, burned their homes, and sold their women. The book said part of the reason Pashtuns had oppressed the Harazas was that Pashtuns were Sunni Muslims, while Harazas were Shia. The book said a lot of things I didn't know, things my teacher hadn't mentioned, things Baba hadn't mentioned either. It said some things I did know, like that people called Harazas mice-eating, flat-nosed, load-carrying donkeys. I heard some of the kids in my neighborhood yell those names to Hassan. The following week, after class, I showed the book to my teacher and pointed to the chapter on the Harazas. He skimmed through a couple pages, snickered, handed the book back. "That's one thing Shia people do well," he said, picking up his papers, "passing themselves as martyrs." He wrinkled his nose when he said the word Shia, like it was some kind of disease. But despite sharing ethnic heritage and family blood, Sanabar joined the neighborhood kids in taunting Ali. I have heard that she made it no secret of her disdain for his appearance. "This is a husband," she would sneer. "I've seen old donkeys better suited to be a husband." In the end, most people suspected the marriage had been an arrangement of sorts between Ali and his uncle, Sanabar's father. They had said Ali married his cousin to help restore some honor to his uncle's blemished name, even though Ali, who had been orphaned at the age of 5, had no worldly possessions or inheritance to speak of. Ali never retaliated against any of his tormentors, I suppose partly because he could never catch him with that twisted leg dragging behind him. Mostly because Ali was immune to the insults of his assailants. He had found his joy, his antidote, the moment Sanabar had given birth to Hassan. It had been a simple enough affair. No obstetricians, no anesthesiologists, no fancy monitoring devices. Just Sanabar laying on a stained, naked mattress with Ali and a midwife helping her. She hadn't needed much help at all, even in birth. Hassan was true to his nature. He was incapable of hurting anyone, A few grunts, a couple of pushes, and out came Hassan. Out he came, smiling. As confided to a neighbor servant by the garrulous midwife, who had then in turn told anyone who would listen, Sanabar had taken one glance at the baby in Ali's arms, seen the cleft lip, and barked a bitter laughter. "There," she said, "now you have your own idiot child to do all your smiling for you." She had refused to even hold Hassan, and just 5 days later she was gone. Baba hired the same nursing woman who had fed me to nurse Hassan. Ali told us she was a blue-eyed Hiraza woman from Bamyan, the city of the giant Buddha statues. "What a sweet singing voice she had," he used to say to us. What she did sing, Hassan and I always asked, though we already knew. Ali had told us countless times. We just wanted to hear Ali sing. He'd clear his throat and begin. "On a high mountain I stood, and cried the name of Ali, Lion of God. O Ali, Lion of God, King of men, bring joy to our sorrowful hearts." Then he would remind us that there was a brotherhood between people who had fed from the same breast, a kinship that not even time could break. Hassan and I fed from the same breast. We took our first steps on the same lawn in the same yard, and under the same roof we spoke our first words. Mine was Baba. His was Amir, my name. Looking back on it now, I think the foundation for what happened in the winter of 1975 and all that followed was already laid in those first words.